Hey guys, welcome to our podcast for readers. This is our very first episode. We're super excited.
Yes.
So we're basically a group of 4 girls. We've been friends basically since high school.
Well, some of us since
elementary school. Yeah. So we decided to get together and just get ourselves to read more. I personally, Taylor, have not been reading at all in the last couple of years.
I don't think I've read since high school.
Right?
College.
Wow. She's our avid reader over there. So we thought this was a good idea just to get together and why not get a podcast mic. So let's go around the table. I'll start since I am hosting our first one just because today's book pick was mine. I'm Taylor.
Simone.
Elaine.
Brooke. And this is for readers. So we might as well jump right in. So the genre of our first podcast was thriller. I went a little psycho thriller with my pick, and my book got the lucky pick in the wheel, and it is The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchison. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And so just to give a base summary of it, because we are going to go into a deeper review, it is just about a girl who has essentially escaped her kidnapper and her conversation with one of the detectives. That was basically what I got from the summary of the book, so I picked it. And another reason why I picked it was it has a great score on Goodreads. It has a 4.9.
It was a 4.09.
My bad.
Oh, so a 4.
A 4.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was basically
4.9.
5. That's why I kind of gave a little look to the side.
4.09 seems more fair than 4.9.
Okay.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Okay. So I was thinking that we should start just from first impressions off the first chapter before we get into the actual read of the book. So who wanted to go? First impressions?
Elaine.
Okay.
First impression, I like the way that the characters were written. I like that it helped to draw you in the mystery of why is Maya acting this way and why is she with these detectives? And obviously something traumatic happened, but why is she almost being treated like a perpetrator herself?
Yes.
And so it made it a good segue into wanting to read more to understand her background more and try to get into her psychological, foundation of the reason why she's speaking to them the way that she is, the reason why she's a little bit aloof, the reason why she kind of alludes to not being cared about that much. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what my general impression was in the beginning.
Gotcha. Okay. You want to go or?
This is Brooke. I was not excited from the first chapter. I will be very honest.
Same.
There was small things. This is so crazy because my grammar is awful. There were small things grammar-wise that stood out to me. And something about it just off the cuff felt very stereotypical or very generic.
Yes.
Like very Criminal Minds.
Yes. Very CBS.
Yes, I was getting Law and Order heavy.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, here's the archetype of the main detective she was talking to, and then the hard ass Edward.
Edison.
I couldn't stand Edison.
I couldn't stand
Edison
either.
I was like, Edison, get a second dimension. That's all he was one dimensional from the beginning.
And he never evolved. He kind of stayed that way throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
But my general impressions from the beginning, I was not a fan of Maya. I was by page 20, I think. I was like, you're starting to piss me off, Maya. I wasn't a fan of Maya. I was jarred by the first person, third person shift in narrative.
Yeah.
When we go to her and then go back into the room. But I kind of got into it pretty quickly. But first few chapters, I was not excited.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have to agree. I think I stayed on page 3 for at least a week and a half. I read it and then I was like, okay, I have to read this before the 29th at least, but I wasn't happy. And then, kind of pushing myself through, I did end up liking a lot more of the story. I actually liked the shift. So when we went into her kind of background story and world and then come back in the room, I liked that. I kind of broke up from that the cheesiness of being in the a holding cell, and you know, her being kind of evasive of like all of the questions, which was very annoying. I thought like it doesn't have to be this, you know, philosophical thing like what happened, but I guess I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I just felt like she was trying to be overly
cryptic.
Yeah, overly cryptic for something. Like, it was so overly cryptic that I thought maybe there was some type of supernatural aspect that was going to happen. But it was like, you know.
And everybody kept talking about how she's so smart.
Yeah, like
so
what
clever.
What was it? You know, what was the thing? Like, I know that something traumatic happened, but it was also like, oh, all the girls are waiting for her, you know? And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What was it?
I have the very same experience. I got stuck on 15 for a long time, and there was when I was reading that first chapter, all you could hear was, "Oh my God, Jesus!" And I actually had to pick up on what Elaine said because I did not get the sense that she was being shifty or mysterious. I was like, what is with this heat that she's getting? I know you all three picked up on it essentially, but I was lost. I was like, what did she do? Was it something at the hospital? Was it something when they rescued them? Right. Like, what did they do? What did she do to make them pull her aside? And then, although I felt like she was being cryptic to me just to be cryptic as a plot device, I was just like, okay, but is anything even really here? Like, nothing even stood out to me. Like, why are we questioning her so hard? Like, I was always confused at the beginning. Like,
why was she the main target?
Yeah, I just didn't. That missed it for me. And then I have it in my notes. It was just like, get Edison off my page. Yeah. Like, he's so annoying. He's such a hindrance as an officer to me. And Victor was okay, but to me and throughout the book, he had no development other than to be the question asker, the question guy.
And everybody remember he's got two girls.
Yes, that's all. It's just two girls. We had to make sure we had that humanization there. And then
it's a good cop, bad cop
type of thing. Exactly. Yeah. And it was so cliche. And then we'll get into it later. But I have so many issues with Maya. It's astounding. It's astounding.
Let's get into some of the
it's not even about
there.
what she did. It was about how she was written, and I felt like the tone that was carried in the first chapter carried all the way through. And I was just like, for her, and I liked her more as a character in her scenes where she was kind of developing and trying to get out of the garden versus when she was in the interrogation room.
Definitely.
So my first impression was, oh my God, I picked the worst book. No one's going to let me pick again. Like, I'm going to be excommunicated. I just wasn't feeling it.
Mind you, this would have been the book that I chose if I didn't choose one of the other books that I chose, because I saw it on the list. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with the sentiment that Maya was frustrating inside of that interrogation room. And when they don't give you anything leading up to like her attitude, which is on the first page, you're like, what is with this girl?
Yeah.
I think that as you get deeper into the book, I wanted to know about Edison because
I did too.
Very freaking annoying. Like, dude, it's your job. I get it. These things are hard. You're trying to get the answers. You got a whole bunch of girls in the hospital. This girl should probably be in the hospital too, but you're speaking to her like she's the one who did what happened at the end of the book.
Exactly. That's why I was like, where's this heat coming from?
You would think if they're trauma too, they'd have more sensitivity.
Exactly. This is supposed to be their division, right?
Yeah.
And you've been doing this for years, right? And let's talk about the fact that Edison has a sister who went missing, when she was 7, 8 years old?
Yeah.
9. And so when Maya makes the comment about, in all of New York City, he chose me, nobody would care. Basically, who's coming to look for these girls? They go missing and nobody finds them. And there's no point of getting any type of, answer for it. And he comes back with the picture and he's so pissed off because he's like, my sister went missing this, how many years ago, and we're still looking. And any time that we hear anything about somebody who might look like her or somebody who might be the same age as her, we think maybe that's her so we can get some type of closure. So I did like that they put that in there, but at the same time, it made me wonder, why did he come in so hot and hostile towards her?
Why was he so angry?
That's been his experience since he was 11, 12 years old when she went missing.
I'm gonna say, I like that you bring that up because that was the only scene I liked Edison in. Because her whole attitude about, well, what does it matter if you can identify them? What closure does this give people? I'm like, you're living in a cave where your dead butterfly sisters are hung in the wall. And you don't think their families, you care who's in the wall? You don't think anyone else is going to care who's in the wall? But that's what I think speaks to like, and I feel like this is a great segue to now just talk to the read about Maya. Because I feel like that's a great way to like, that's her whole trauma with abandonment. Since no one cared about her, she just assumes no one's going to care about these girls once they're gone.
Yeah,
but
I think that's a weird way to look at it.
That's how I felt and I felt like they concluded that when Sophia found her. It was a shock that someone was waiting for her.
I see.
So it seemed like when she was like, why do you care? Like, what do the families care? Because she's like, y'all don't give a damn. That's how she was coming off to me.
Right. That's kind of a weird feeling because she did have someone that cared. I mean, not familial, but I think it was the neighbors or somebody
but she always
dropped her off.
But she always distanced herself from them. Even when she talks about the neighbors, she talked about how she wasn't their kid and that they were nice and how she threw away the note because people always end up getting left behind. And even she was like, those neighbors aren't waiting for me. Like that was her whole thing. Like even when she found her family in New York,
right,
they're not waiting for me. Although like clearly those girls loved you.
Right.
And it was just like that to me was my biggest issue with Maya. For someone who was written as so intelligent and just had the emotional analysis like that to be like, oh, she's not ready for the reality or whatever, when she was doing all that. It was like you were so blind to your own love in your life, right? And so it just...
What?
Oh, okay, so
I just wanted to take the cover off to see. It didn't do anything.
Okay, no worries. And so she just annoyed me. Maya just annoyed me throughout the whole thing, the entire thing.
Yeah, I liked her character. I think that yes, she was frustrating in the beginning. I think she became a little bit more likable, like you said, when she was trying to escape. And I kind of even liked her scenes when she was in New York. I found that little time period.
Yeah, I did too. Like, I really enjoyed that as well. So even when she was in the garden, right? And how she slowly, I don't want to say, became that mother hen figure just because she was always so upfront.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And then so caring and everything to the other girls.
Was she that caring though?
No, because she pissed me off with that whole you either get it together or what was she an unnecessary curse word one, but that whole attitude when the girl first woke up, I was like, I'm keeping it real. I was like, shut up, Maya, shut up. I don't understand how she became, honestly, that's the thing I think I missed with her. I don't understand how she became the character that all the girls at the hospital are looking for. I want to talk to Maya. I don't want to say. I can understand for the last girl.
Yeah.
The girl who set everything off.
Keely.
Because Maya was with her right when she woke up. But everyone else, some of them I didn't get.
Well, they kind of gave two sides where it's like one side she was this cold person that, I can now analyze anyone. I'm more emotionally mature than everyone here, and this is our reality, and you have to deal with it. And then on the other hand, you have scenes where she's being a therapist for the other other people. Like how do those two character traits
come together?
And then lead to that final,
who she becomes at the end.
Right. Yeah.
The butterfly who's come out.
Right.
Cheesy. No, I think that she didn't know who she was. I mean, like, because she's 16 years old. She's written as a 16-year-old.
Yeah. How old is she? I was a little confused.
I
at the
think
age
she
there.
got taken at 16 and she was there for 2 years. So she was 18 by the time she came out, 18, 19.
Yeah. And so I think it's interesting, you're right, Taylor, about them writing her as this supreme intellect and just wise beyond her years because she was 16 years old. So how smart could she have really been?
Yeah.
Not to, diminish that, but because she obviously had street smart. She had to basically survive for herself. She had to take care of herself. Even when she had caretakers, quote unquote, next to her, she was the one taking care of herself.
Right. Yeah.
And her parents leave her on a carousel, which was horrible.
Yeah.
But it's also something people do.
Is it? I mean, that one seemed a little bit extreme. That one was, I was like, really? You're going to leave your child on this carousel?
But what's crazy is there are people like that. I felt like that was a powerful scene in the sense that there are really people who don't give anything about their kids.
I felt like we were checking a box for Maya.
Well, I think
True.
But I think they were trying to.
What teen can we build here? I don't know. Some of it, the parent part, I felt her neglectful parents was the most grounding thing about her. But some of the other things felt like check marks to make sure she's a traumatized,
self-sufficient,
and hardened,
right?
Because no one has ever treated her with care.
Right.
I will say I felt like the carousel thing, like one parent walks off because they don't care. You think the other one's going to do something, and then the other one walks off.
And they don't care.
I got that. But then to go to her grandmother, and her grandmother's also kind of like...
But they said the grandmother was just like the mom. She had like 9 husbands.
That, and then the stuff with the grandmother's neighbors, and then all this. I was like... And then she goes and she takes herself to school at when she was 6 or when she was really young?
It's almost like too much for... I mean, I know, like you said, there's cases.
Yeah.
But it's just like too much for that young of a person.
Well, here's my
thing.
For this character, I felt.
And then going to New York at 4... Like, I know people do it. I'm just saying.
We watched Pose.
Yeah,
true.
I didn't watch it, but I do know what scene you're talking about, right? When he gets kicked out and he goes to New York. Yeah, but it's the same. Like if you think about kids from New York and how they're self-sufficient in the way that they just get on the subway and go to school, and some of them are doing that as early as elementary. And I think she had a good point where she's like, people don't question a lot of things if you give them like a little reasonable explanation, like going to the grocery store and you're like, oh, my mom's in the car with the baby. Because people aren't going to, okay.
That's weird though.
Right?
I feel
but
like
then,
I'd definitely be like, okay.
But people are going to be like, okay, the mom didn't want to leave the baby in a hot parked car, and she didn't want the 6-year-old to get in there and do something else. They're going to just, you want people to be good. And that's what she was utilizing. Like, they're not going to ask any questions if they assume there's a responsible parent somewhere. And so that's why she said she's just lost faith in human intelligence at that point. And she was like 6.
I see it. Right. I see it.
Yeah. Because if I'm like in a park and I see a kid by himself and I'm like, hey, where are your parents? And he points to 2 people across. Am I going to go talk to those 2 people and confirm they're their parents? I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure you had someone.
Right.
And I'm going to walk on. And that's what she capitalized on.
True. So I thought it was interesting that they built her intellect in that way to build up to this place of, well, when she gets into the garden, she's got street smarts.
Yeah.
But it also was because she was in that apartment, which I have to say, Sophia's role, that was one of the most unnecessary things to me.
Yeah.
Because you talk about the missing butterfly. Oh, the butterfly who escaped, and they just kind of brush over it. And then the second part, they start getting into Sophia and how she relates back to Maya and how Maya becomes mother hen and how she remembers how Sophia takes care of her children. Through all the adversity. She came back to make sure that she could be there for her kids, even if she can't have them next to her right now. She's trying to work so that she can. So I thought that was interesting. But then when we get to the very end and Sophia's at the hospital and Maya's like, I didn't want them to find out. And then Edison's like, did you go in on purpose?
On it.
Where did this come from?
I
almost threw the book
when I
heard
that dumb shit. Oh my! I was like, this is the secret. It's Sophia is the secret.
And what was for Maya, who was so intelligent? What was she trying to do? She was going to try to avoid she even said, I don't know, I was going to avoid the questions and try to burn your page in the book. What? And then you're so right about Edison. Spot on. Did you get caught on purpose? Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah,
I knew exactly who it was and didn't confer or do anything with the police.
I tried to find the code, but
like, please. That showed me that at her core, she's still a kid. She made a bad decision trying to protect someone. But and then just to follow up on that, Sophia being a butterfly was the biggest left field. And then I was like, this is the secret?
Yeah. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God.
Almost basically ruined the ending for me. What was the point?
It did. Danielle. I mean, Elaine.
I knew you were going to slip out.
It's even going back to what we all said at the beginning about why was she singled out to go into this room. Since they left that so vague, I'm like, I can't even imagine anything she would do at the hospital that would have them pull her in and treat her like she was Lorraine's bitch ass in this whole thing.
We got to get to Lorraine.
So,
later.
but you're gonna pull me in, but not Lorraine. Mm-hmm. And my secret is that I knew an escaped butterfly. And then my thing is, after all this talk about Ravenna wanting to speak to her, I feel we deserve to read that conversation. We didn't even get to read the conversation she had with Ravenna, like, hey, talk to your mom, the senator, blah, blah, blah. It was like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
2 sentences. She was the main girl calling for her.
Right.
And then all that build up with the senator, I was like, and she was not even a villain.
She was not even really there.
We passed her 2 times in the hospital.
Right. And they make her out to be a bad person too, or just like uncaring about any of the other girls who were there except for her daughter, who must be the only victim who was there. Right, and she also makes Maya out to be the person who was a part of this with the gardener just because she was in the interrogation room when girls bandaged up too.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. What did she do it just to get picked up?
It just felt like the cliche politician villain.
You know what I think it is? I think it was probably because she was the least maybe wounded.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Well, Bliss wouldn't have been that wounded either because her and Bliss pulled Desmond out when he got shot at the end. Yeah. So Bliss would have been fine too. My assumption was that because she was so close to the gardener, and even Bliss made that comment about you're kind of the one who just deals with him. Like, you keep him away from us, and he's with you most of the time. And it's, again, she's Mother Hen. She's the one who's like above all the girls. She's the one who's making sure that everybody's okay, especially after Leonette's gone, who I think is the reason why she felt that it is because it was written that she felt that she needed to take over Leonette's spot. Yeah. That it felt so good to have somebody who was next to her and she didn't wake up alone in that room naked.
Yeah.
Somebody to show her.
That was crazy.
That was.
Yeah.
The whole intake process.
Yeah.
That's gross.
I feel like that's a great segue into that because I feel like Leonette, as brief as her time in the book was, I felt like she had a great impact near the end where it was her name that really pinged them after Desmond called. Because Keeley was so recent, but they were like, it's Cassidy Lawrence, who was like on a case 7 years ago, which it's insane to think that she was picked up at what? That would have been 14?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's gross.
It's gross. Oh my God.
Did anyone have a problem with like visualizing the
area?
The area. I was kind of confused as like to how it was constructed. So you're telling me that you're housing 23 girls
with a waterfall and a lake and a hill
cliff and 23 rooms and the walls come up and down.
It felt very OA in some spots. Remember, it was on a smaller scale when they had that atrium and it had the little things in the doors. I just thought like it was an OA but in a dome somewhere.
But it's how they were. What pinged me to, or kind of confused me, I should say, is there was a scene where Maya was pushing her face up against the dome and could see the gardener and the wife walking around.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Like what does that look like?
Was she under them or above?
No, they were outside.
I know, but I'm talking about when she viewed them. When she was peering,
in a tree.
I know, but when she was peering, was she peering down or level? That's what I'm talking about.
Because she said that they made eye contact. Her and the gardener made eye contact.
And she was at the top of the mountain on a tree.
And she was saying it was a greenhouse. Or Desmond, I think, said it was a greenhouse, and we never. He specifically isn't allowed to go back there.
Yeah.
You know. So is it on this huge acreage property?
I think they did say that.
Garden, and then a greenhouse. But how, like, on a scale, this greenhouse has to have a large enough, to have a cliff and a pond and
a dome.
Somebody die and
I'm saying I'm with you. I could not visualize it to save my life because I can't think of a greenhouse that big and like and people not question
yeah, and not question it, like not want to go in and like
I'm
peek
like, so
in.
what are we doing? It's
and
got
why
like
do the walls
trees?
come down all the time?
Like, what are we sealing?
And why is he out there from 10 to 2?
It's like all these questions. Why are we putting sensors in the lake?
What are we doing again? That like some of the stuff he had in there was high tech,
Like Batman
Man,
level
like,
stuff
I'm like,
for
when they
people.
make the jokes, like, you don't think you had to get contractors? You don't think they talk about what they built in that cave?
Yeah, like a wall that you could hold human girls in.
And he's a doctor. I'm like, I didn't know doctors made that.
Oh, he was a doctor?
Didn't they say he was some type of doctor?
I don't know.
I don't
never got
remember.
the-
They just said his
Yeah.
name was like George McIntosh.
Well, he
Yeah.
had some type of company because like he could buy
The formaldehyde.
gallons of
formaldehyde,
formaldehyde
yeah.
resin apparently and
Oh,
not
that's right.
ping anything.
And
Oh,
he
no,
was, like,
it was for
trading it and
clothes.
stuff
It
like
was
that.
for clothes, I think. I
Yeah,
thought he
it was
said.
something because I know Desmond was, which is crazy. We can talk about Desmond's
Yeah,
bitch
his-
ass.
so
Was a
freaking annoying.
they were trying to be a psychologist. I know
Yeah.
that. I just remember that part.
He needs to not do that.
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about the villains a little bit
Yeah,
here
let's
as
talk
the gardener and
And
Avery.
motherfucking Avery.
Oh, trash.
Disgusting.
You know what's so funny? As trash as Avery was, I thought the gardener was the worst of them all.
Definitely.
Because
Yeah.
you see on TV when they do these killers and they're so warped in how they're viewing everything, but to really see it from the eyes of someone who he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you in a couple of years, but you know, I love you, I'm all this tenderness. I would have been
My butterfly.
there were times where she was so calm talking to him and I was internally losing my shit. That's why I had to give it to her, because I would have would have attacked this man with everything I had.
Yeah,
'Cause
but survival.
that's what I'm saying. I had to give that to her. She
Yeah.
knew like there was no reasoning with this man.
Right.
There was no talking to this man.
And what kicked it off? Like they kind of went into the background, like with his grandfather or whatever, collecting the butterflies. But like,
He saw some girl at a carnival or something. She had like a
Butterfly
butterfly
wing.
tattoo.
how does that spiral into I'm going to kidnap girls?
Yeah.
And
Kept her in his basement.
like I wish we would have gotten maybe a chapter or two to discuss
Right.
more about his psychology a little bit,
Yeah.
to kind of not necessarily excuse it, but to like understand
it,
why
yeah.
and like how it all started. And
Yeah.
maybe this is a series, I don't know, maybe there's like a
It is.
so maybe
but
there's some backstory there.
No, it's a series
series.
it's a series. There's like 4 books,
oh
and it follows the team.
Ugh,
team
okay.
what team? Not Victor and Mr. Hothead.
It follows Victor Edison, is that his name?
Yeah.
And the people behind the glass. They get a different, very criminal minds, very getting on the jet.
That's why a lot of it
Oh,
felt
no.
cliche at the beginning, Law and Order type of style. Yeah, the
But
gardener.
I think a nice little
Yeah, I do agree.
2-chapter back story would have helped to kind of make sense of the reasoning, because what they gave me wasn't
Enough.
explaining why he's the way he is,
Like why
and
Hall.
why Avery was the way. Why was he so violent?
I think it was just in his blood.
He was
evil.
crazy.
Evil.
Yeah.
That's definitely the word. Yeah.
And he had issues with women, clearly.
Yeah.
My thing is, Avery, I felt was almost like, I'm not going to pretend this is anything than what it is. Like my dad likes to sit up
Yeah.
here and act like
He's a rapist.
He's doing something.
Like
And
a
a murderer.
favor or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I'd have been like, look, Gardner, I can't be Avery's favorite.
Yeah.
I can't be it. You need to actually, if you say you care, you need to do something.
Right. Not kick him out for a month and then let him come back to his dungeon.
You know what's so crazy?
And he killed so many of them by damaging their freaking tattoos. They
Yeah.
like he would put something at scar over the tattoo. Dead the next day.
Yeah.
Dead the next day. But Avery can come back.
The gardener gave Inara one thing, and she asked for no cameras in the cave so the girls can have some mental health space. She should have said, "Keep Avery away from me."
Yeah.
I don't want Avery to touch me.
And he kept coming back.
Yeah.
Because like when he couldn't
power thing.
attack her, which this should have clued me in, when he couldn't attack her at the event in public, which was dumb. When he couldn't attack her then, it's like it followed her into the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. And then when she wouldn't be scared when he attacked her in the space, he just couldn't let it go.
That kind of brutality was really disturbing to me.
Yeah, extremely.
I mean, I think, yes, the gardener was gross in and of itself, but him, the way that the scenes were described when the assaults were happening with her, and how he was just like brutal. It was just.
He was actually the brutal part of it for me. Because when I was looking at other reviews and everybody was like, this book is so gross and blah, blah, blah. Everything else felt like something I could see on Criminal Minds. Not saying Avery wouldn't be on some of the older Criminal Minds stuff. But he had that touch that I would be like, he's really violent. He's really about this. Kidnapping, assault life.
Right. Like you said, he wasn't pretending what this was. Right. And I think that the gardener, in the most sick and twisted way, showed a sense of humanity towards his butterflies, whereas Avery looks at them as some disposable, this is my slave now. I can do whatever I want because they're trapped. And going back to what you were saying, Simone, about wanting more backstory on why the gardener was the way that he was, to me, it had something obviously to do with his father. Like, why is it that his father passed away so quickly after his butterflies were destroyed and his family wasn't enough to keep him
that's a good point.
there? And it didn't seem like they really had that close of a relationship, and maybe the only thing he felt that he could connect to with his father was the butterflies. But I would have definitely liked to see, well, what was their dynamic like, other than just him pining over a man he obviously didn't know that well, and then
kidnapping,
going crazy, and doing it for 30 years.
Jump. And that's crazy. How old was he when he started, and how old was he when he was done?
Because I would start to get worried about, are you healthy? Because when you die, this is going to Avery, and it's not going to be as nice and calm, nice air quote as it is now.
I mean, they made it seem like he was like a fit
guy.
I was envisioning someone in his 50s or something.
That's what I was thinking.
50.
But then he'd have to be kidnapping in his 20s.
I think so. He said the first girl he took was from the fair, and he kept her for years, and didn't start adding girls until he was he felt like she was getting lonely, and that's how the collection started.
And Lorraine
raping this one girl in this makeshift greenhouse. I mean, it probably wasn't even updated.
Yeah, it was probably just regular in the basement
first. She had him in the basement first,
sitting on the couch somewhere, a locked thing. But you brought up Lorraine. Yes, let's do Lorraine then Desmond. Lorraine, there was something so sinister yet sad about her.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, especially when Sophia said at the end she was never going, when she was even when she was alive, she was never going to be a butterfly. Even before she turned. So it was just why was everyone so sure that he was never going to put her in glass? She
passed her age.
Well, no, when Sophia said when she was locked up at the very end of the book, she's talking because she brings up Lorraine, and she says even when she was there before everything, when she was kidnapped with her, he was never going to put her in glass. So I don't think it was about the age.
I think he needed someone to do the things that she was doing.
The medical part.
The cooking, the medical.
That's what I'm saying.
I think she might have been scouting, to be honest.
She could have damaged wings too.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is that everyone who kind of spoke about her, even Maya said it, because she was upstairs, she wants to be in the glass. She was obsessed. She wanted to be one of his girls again because, she put the gray suit on and now she's the lackey. But they all said even when she was in the dress with the wings out that she would have never been put in the glass. So I'm where was everyone getting that assumption from her? And then if so, was she just a pick because he knew he was going to need somebody to be that in between? You know what I mean?
I mean, when they said they sent her to school,
that was crazy.
And she came back. I was with everybody. Fuck Lorraine.
As soon as she was able to get up and out
and came
and
on
then
back.
got in a dress and came back.
Okay, but could we say the same thing about Sophia?
Sophia's the same way, but she was a prostitute. She had a good point. She was a prostitute. She was pregnant, and
she didn't remember where she was.
Mm-hmm.
She had no idea. I could give her that.
She should have put an anonymous tip in, though.
But I'm you can tell someone
crazy person out here.
Yeah.
You can tell someone And then if they don't believe you, then at least I did my part. I couldn't be able to find it to save my life because she fled in such a fear state.
Right.
But at least I went to the police. I did this, that, and the third. I have some names, and if you guys don't follow up, I would be able to live with that to an extent that I pushed it and tried to get help.
You tried something.
But she just, I didn't feel like she gave up, but she was very resigned to he'll be almost like he'll do this forever. So not need to say anything.
Wasn't she strung out on some type of hard drug?
I thought she said she started drugs after that.
She started drugs after that.
Mm-hmm.
She was a prostitute, and then I think she got picked up, because that's that dangerous profession. And then she got kidnapped there. And then when she managed to sneak out, because she found out she was pregnant, and then she said, he was rich, or she got lost on the estate, didn't want to lose the kid to him, and be, what happens to the child. But
if he died, I would be like, I'm going to need half of that money because this baby's his.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Now, it's
all that
I don't know about when he's alive.
And also, granted, she could have Googled millionaires, billionaires, because clearly this man has money.
Probably
and just looked at the pictures.
Yeah,
true. It might have taken forever.
Yeah,
but I'd have been like, it wasn't no Joe Smo.
Yeah, it was definitely somebody with some money.
Yeah,
as soon as known.
Yeah.
Especially for him to go and reserve that restaurant and have the party with the butterflies and obviously have no problem with people seeing who he is and his crazy ass son.
So you saw him at the party.
She wasn't there. She wasn't there.
She saw the girls come back in the costume and it triggered her. And then she ended up telling Maya about what happened to her.
But then I would have been like, okay,
that's
what's the owner's name? I would have been like, who did we host the party for?
But she never knew his name. But I feel like, I don't know if it's avoiding
there's some
stuff,
way. I feel like she could have found a way. Or something.
I agree too. I'd be like, that's a little weird.
Like, can we have a picture?
Specific. The guy tried to get you in the bathroom. I don't know.
And that was the son, you said?
What was his name?
Right.
It started with an A. Okay.
No questions.
Familiar.
Right.
But yeah, Lorraine, she was gross. She didn't have any sympathy for them at all. When they were doing the thing for Zara's play, and she came in with some wig, to what?
She was mad that girl cut her hair.
I know she was mad. And then he didn't care. I was just like, girl, there's Stockholm syndrome, and then I feel like there's levels to it. You are a willing captive for years.
Yeah.
You could have walked away anytime. You could have said, honestly, it would have been horrible. F all of y'all and not saved a single person and just walked away and saved
I bet she knew the code to get right out.
She knew all the codes.
That's crazy. She probably did know
all
the code.
She went to
could have written that in the cave or something. Write it in the cave.
Come on. She would have been like, look, girls, we're going to get out of here. He would, on all these vacations he took, all they needed was one charity event.
Yep.
And I'd be like, I'm going to navigate you out this state. Crazy.
But then how would he have ever loved her?
He didn't love you.
That's true.
He didn't love you. She kept trying to win something she never had. And I feel like something he wasn't even really giving to any of the victims anyway. Because even though he was like always touching the glass and acting like he loved them, he never called them by their name and was like, the name he gave them, property ownership. And then all he saw was their back. So then you don't even see the face anymore. You only see the tattoo.
Right.
So
which is so crazy. Like, what? I just don't understand. Dot Hutchison, add a chapter or two of why this man is the way. What is that?
Exactly.
And also,
get it.
I was also like, did he take a tattoo apprenticeship?
Yeah,
like,
how was he so
back
good at
tattoos are, I guess, 30 years of practice, but did you kill the first few when you got it wrong?
When did he start the tattooing thing? Was that like after he...
I know. I don't know. His whole thing wasn't well fleshed out to me. And then like, oh yeah, my wife, she's so fragile. I just feel like every scene with him, I was burning. I was burning with the hypocrisy of it all. I was burning with like the cruelty of it all. I was like, if someone doesn't pick up a knife and slash this man, because the one thing about
23 girls in here.
Exactly. And he wanted to play games. The one thing about Avery, although he was crazy, brutal, I'd have been like, Like you said, Avery's not playing games. Do not sit here and braid my hair and act like you give any damn
as you unzip your pants. Yeah,
exactly. And then
Tell me
cry
how
when
much you
Avita
care.
falls off down the tree.
I never wanted any of you to get hurt. I care about you so much. Shut up.
Shut up! I was so over him.
And also, Simone, there's 23 girls. You all have an expiration date.
Yeah.
Slit the man's throat.
But they wouldn't be able to get out.
Kill Avery and hold
torture
something to
Lorraine.
Lorraine.
Torture
Until she gives you
Lorraine.
the code.
Yep.
We're all dying at 21 anyway.
But see, that's why you get them when they're young. And that's why you put them on display.
Okay. That tells me I'm dying in 5 years. Am I dying sitting here, or am I going to die because I tried to get out?
That's very true.
I'd have
Would
been
you
like,
rather
I'd
be
that whole whispering.
assaulted every single day, multiple times a day?
That's very
or
true.
would you take your chances and gather a band of, 5 or 6 or 10 girls and overtake this 53-year-old man?
I'm that hoe whispering in everybody's ear. Drown him.
Meet me at the cave.
Someone pretend to float, and he'll come and save. Or pull a kangaroo.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And pull
that's
him under.
That's funny.
Especially one of those months that Avery's banned.
Yeah.
And then you don't
Yeah.
have the muscle
Yeah.
behind you.
But here's my
And
thing.
he
You
has
kill us-
keys. He had keys and stuff on him for all the doors.
Yeah, but there was still a code to get out.
I know, but at
He
the
said-
same time, if he's not
Torture
watching,
Lorraine.
Yeah.
you can now work on breaking the glass. If you take him out, Avery's banned. You now have time to. He got all these rocks and twigs and stuff.
Okay, but
Oh,
everywhere.
no, that
But
the
here's
dome
my
might be a little
thing.
thick.
But here's my thing, because like let's say
That time.
Avery's banned, right? He's banned, he can't come in. You kill the gardener, you're torturing Lorraine, but she's still 10 toes down to this man, even in death. I doubt she's going to give up that code. So you have until Avery feels like it's been too long since I've seen my dad
I need
to try to get out. And you got to expect when he's coming, he's probably
Yeah.
going to have a weapon. That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
They
you know
said there
what?
was one way in, one way
Just
out.
wait till he gets through the door. So you killed everybody. Lorraine doesn't, so you kill her. And then you have like 5 girls posted up near the door in some bushes or whatever. And you just wait for him to come through the door.
and you kill him.
And you kill him.
because his wife is going to be like, well, I know he's not here. He likes to go look in the garden.
And if I was that wife, I'd be oddly suspicious of why he's spending the night in the garden.
She probably just thought he was cheating. That's probably the worst of it. She probably thought he was getting hookers and cheating
Yeah.
and not kidnapping and raping women
Right.
in the atrium, whatever it was.
Well, raping children.
Children.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
long
let's
was
keep it-
that cave
Yeah.
hallway? How many girls did he have?
That's why I'm saying it's hard to visualize the scene. How
Because
how
if it
is
was
this
30 girls, is it 15 on each side that were on the wall? So then how long are you walking?
But
I
they
don't
would have been
know.
like right
Big.
next to, I don't know.
You
It's
have to think
big.
about the ones who get pregnant, they die, and the ones that Avery
But
killed,
he
they
but
die.
he buries
them
those.
outside.
He buries
Because
Can
they
you
never-
imagine
mess
how
up-
messed up that grave site is? Just like multiple
girls in there.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's
So I want to shift really quick since we're talking about the villains.
Desmond.
Desmond,
Ugh.
that's when the book turned to something that I
was very
I need to
interesting.
finish.
Yeah.
When Desmond was introduced, I was flipping those pages, and he did really disappoint me at first. He really did, and I can only give it to him that he tried to call.
I can't even give him that.
But I want to say this really quick before we go back to Desmond. When Avery came in with that little girl on his shoulder, I was like,
I was
Yeah.
too.
I was like, he didn't.
I was like, this is the turning point.
I was like, this is. I felt it. I
Yeah.
felt it in the book with them. With everybody was all like,
I
oh
had
my
to put
God.
it down
Yeah.
for a moment.
Oh my
Take
God.
a breath before I read the rest.
I was like,
and the
he
fact that he
didn't
took her
cross the line.
Saturday and only took her to the dome on Thursday.
That's crazy.
That means Avery had her for a week.
that's nasty.
Yeah, I was like, but that you're so right. The tension upped up because not only did you take another really younger minor, now this is someone who's going to be very present. I feel like in media attention, the Amber Alert, everything.
Like even the dad knew. He was like, "What have you done?" I'm like,
and this is something that could turn. That's something that unites your captors.
Yeah.
There's one thing where you all feel like we're all the same age, we're all in this together. But when you see a kid come in, that's the passion people look
Younger
for.
kid.
Yeah, a
She
younger
was like
kid.
11 or 12.
She was
I think
12.
12.
So
So
it's like-
2-year difference. I mean,
Well,
I know.
some of them I thought he might have gotten at 14, but I thought he
The
was
average was like
consistent with like
16.
16 to 18.
Yeah. But I'm just like, that's the stuff that unites you when you're like, that's a baby.
Do you think the
Final
gardener was
straw.
like, holy shit?
He
my
was.
God.
He did. He said
I guess
that.
I'm about to go to jail.
like,
Well, he took a cane to Avery, right? Which was, how old are you, bruh? And then, but what I found preposterous is when Desmond went to the police and then they found out and the police came and then there was nothing. And then the gardener gets upset with Desmond, which is like, he's like, I'm the god here. Like, you know, I'm the one who runs this. And he's like, it's illegal. You're raping and killing people.
Again,
He's
we
like, you
need a
don't get to tell me what
backstory.
to do inside of my own garden. Like, what is wrong with you? And
Exactly.
then takes the cane to him. And then Avery's like, yeah, get him, Dad. But then when Avery pulls out the gun,
I gasped again. When the gun came out, I was like,
smacks those
when did
girl's
this-
neck.
I was like, when did this book get so good?
The last 10 pages. And and when Bliss takes the gun and boom booms, I'm like, this should have happened a long time ago. But the part where they all huddle up, I just keep thinking about it when we talk about Lorraine. And Lorraine comes over to huddle up with the butterflies because she didn't want to be around the other guys. So I was like, okay, so now you know who your people are.
Like, go over there, sis.
Right.
Please.
And honestly, you just brought up when he snapped that girl's neck. I was really upset when they killed the girl who was so inquisitive and interested in the like cameras. And when he snapped her neck, I was like, why?
Pia.
I was so upset. And I will say there were parts when she would tell like the brief lives of some of those butterflies and I cried.
Yeah.
I cried maybe there were a good 2 or 3 stories in there. Like when they had the girl in the wheelchair because
Zara,
because Avery done set an infection in her hip. I cried with her. I cried with the who was the one who fell out the tree?
Evita.
Evita. There were a few that I was really upset by.
I cried with, I think her name was Tezra, who was playing the piano.
Oh yeah, when she kind of had that
Yeah.
breakdown and Desmond pulled her out of it.
I'm like, please. So see, this is why I can't give Desmond any credit for even calling the police, because I feel like he knew the right way to do it was to go bring them to the back and walk them in versus doing some erroneous phone call and giving some names. He still tried to give his family a chance, a way out of it.
I think he enjoyed the fruits of his father's labor.
He did.
And then got, buyer's remorse, basically.
I think so too. I think he even said that he was like, I'm realizing I am my father's son. And then that's why I felt like he was so cool. Like, and then he was like, oh, I got myself a little girlfriend down here.
He clearly
She's cool
wanted
with
to
it.
marry her and pull her out, and
Yeah.
that'd be like
The end of
an
it.
elevated Lorraine.
Yeah.
And then when he helped with, and then you're so sick, you're so thrown up, you still helped him kill Zara. So when the gardener takes him to kill Zara, now you're shaking.
You hear your girlfriend giving fellatio to your father in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Oh, this is before they were together, though,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
Because he was just sneaking in, and then
Well, yeah.
they found each other, and then she's just like casually gives the old boy head and comes back, pops the orange in her mouth, like, see, this is what happens. But he's still under this like delusional mindset of, oh, you guys needed to be here because my dad said that you guys were troubled, and he brought
the
you here
street.
to
Do we
save your
look
life.
like we're in trouble?
Like, dude, what?
I mean, do we look like we're troubled, I should say, because we are in trouble.
Yeah, I was on the street, but here I can't leave, and I have to have sex with your father.
And also,
that's
like,
better
and
than
I'm
being on
3
the
to 4
street.
times.
And also, I've air quote detoxed. I would like to go home now. If that's what you really want to believe.
I am clear-headed. Give me the code,
Yes.
please.
Like, Desmond to me was, I'm glad she said it over and over, was the biggest coward. The biggest coward. You cared about your family name and everything. And honestly, he low-key wanted to inherit that garden.
Yeah.
He wanted it, and he wanted her right by his side, so then she could be the wife, and he could just have sex with more kids. That's just gross. That's just what's gross about
So
the whole
crazy.
thing. Ugh, that's why I'm like, Desmond didn't, I don't know. I think Desmond, you need to take your lashings. You need to go to jail. And I'm glad she said she never loved him and that she was trying to play the game.
I was kind of confused. I was
getting,
like, damn, look at her.
Sideways.
She's about to just sip the Kool-Aid.
Fall into it. She's trying to make
she had a plan.
Yeah.
That was good. I like that little turn of events there. Where
Keely put it in perspective. I'm glad she was like, you're so shocked. You have been letting this go on for 6 months. Something was bound to happen.
Right. Yeah.
All of y'all, the dad with Avery, he's banned for a month. You know he kills girls basically during sex, and you let him back.
Why was he jerking off while her? It's hot.
I
was like, what?
He was so jealous. He was so jealous
that he couldn't break her.
That he couldn't break her, and then that everyone else liked him better. And I was like, I don't know, Avery. Maybe it's the violence.
Maybe you should try a little kindness.
Jeez.
We're all stuck here.
Yeah.
And then I wonder, like, what the gardener was saying to Desmond outside of it to keep him quiet for so long, because he's like, Desmond really gets what I'm doing here. The girls love him. I bet you he was out there like, I'm so proud of you. You're going to carry on my legacy. Just emboldening him. He was going to carry that shit on for another 30, 40 years.
Yep.
Gross family, all three.
Really
and I'm glad he lived. I wish I could have seen the trial and see that whole family get dragged to the mud.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a backstory book and a trial book.
Well, I think there might be a little bit at the beginning of the second book, because when I read the summary for the second book, it says wrapping up this and then going into a new case.
Maybe I'll read the beginning of the second book in Barnes and Nobles just for that.
Is it even in Barnes?
You let us know.
No, what happens? Like, I just want to know how it ended. I had so much rage toward the gardener that I have to see this man get his end.
Yeah.
I have to see this man. And then I just want to be like, you synced with me, Maya, so much. Like, he came and sought her out so many times.
Yeah.
And I just want to be like, did you really, like, he really deluded himself in thinking that she gave anything about him?
And then he started visiting her more once he knew Desmond liked her.
Yeah, why?
Because he
liked
he liked sharing it. I think it was one, like, I'm sharing with my son. I had her first, and I'm giving her to this power.
And that
all of it
one
was power.
scene before he gave his quote unquote blessing with the multiple in one night.
Yeah.
He had me on the floor. He had me on the... Ugh. God,
That's
gross.
Made my stomach turn.
And then, like, when they had the scene and Desmond was behind the kitchen table, I have no doubt in my mind they said the gardener looked at those tapes, even though they weren't sure if he really did. I had no doubt in my mind he knew he was there.
I think he knew too.
And was like, I'm just going to try
That's
to
why
set
he
things
did it.
off and
That's
see
why he
how he
did
does,
that.
like a test to see what he would do.
Yeah.
I'd have been, I just would
so
be spitting, and I would have to die the first day. The second he brushed my hair, I'd be like, "How dare you try to be
just
tender?"
Also, talk about it was a brief moment in the book. I don't know if there was other black character, black
there was
girls,
one. Her,
but there was that
tattoo
one.
got infected.
Yes.
Crazy.
She didn't get a name.
She didn't get a name. Tattoo got infected.
Yeah, she would have keloid. I'm just thinking about, like, okay, if he had black captors, like, I have a tattoo and it's keloided, like, would that have gotten me killed?
Yeah, because it wouldn't have
ruined
been
it.
a good butterfly tattoo.
He would have been like, damn.
Yep.
I'm
well,
dumb.
and you wouldn't have gone in the case either.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
on
I'd have been in the ground.
And then the twins.
Don't get me
twin.
started on the twins.
I can't even remember the annoying one. I went to
The
stop her
annoying one
silly.
really pissed me off a lot.
What was her name?
I'm like, look, just take her.
They tried because they all knew they would die together.
Yep.
And they were like, bitch, please go.
You're
eat.
gonna kill her.
And it's almost like she didn't believe
That
she
was
was
gonna
going to
die.
die. Like he was going to.
She didn't see the other resin encapsulated.
She did, but it felt like she was like, that's not going to happen to me.
Because I think everyone said that in her real life she was so pampered because of a lot of her allergies and she was always catered to.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like she was taking that in, like, there's no way he's going to kill me. Because, they don't know they're working with an expiration date, at least the twins right now. But she's like, there's no way he's going to kill me. And they just could not get it through her head. And then for her to equate that with her coming in with grass, I'd have been like, bitch.
What can I do? We're in the dome with all your stuff. I applaud the ones who tried to make the best of it. I would lose my mind having to play a game of hide and seek every day and have him watch like he's they love it here. No, there's nothing to do. I would be losing my mind.
They're having so much fun.
I would be talking to Maya every day. I'm gonna kill this man. I hate it here. I hate this pretend family.
You know, it's so crazy though that there really wasn't any moment of like, let's band together. Like I didn't feel like there was any moment like that except for, and it was kind of a catalyst for
Keely.
Yeah. But I agree with you because I feel like you can't have, because they said at a time you'd have between like 15 or 20.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
No one, and I guess this is me speaking as a woman too. And no one thought to do that. There's not even any, you have whispered stories 10 years removed of someone who ran away, but there's no stories of a rebellion.
Right.
Everybody just kind of went there and they just accepted
for
it.
30 years.
It's one man.
Really, it's one.
But
at
it's
the same
also
time,
Avery too.
Yeah, but Avery wasn't there all the time. I'm just stuck on that. I get that he had the keys, he had all the stuff, blah, blah, blah. You still have an expiration date on your life. You know, when you've been there long enough, you know you're going to die. He doesn't do any Lorraine's anymore. You can get the face tattoos. He still puts you in the glass.
Which is so crazy too.
Crazy.
But I can get that
were they
mindset.
big?
That's what they were. They said they went like from their eyes all down, like. But I can get that
That's
mindset.
how you know he wasn't looking at the face.
Yeah, you
Yes.
don't care.
He
That's
didn't care.
crazy.
But you're trying to appeal to someone like, if I make myself special, I can get out of here. But I guess this is also just me, but I have to try something. I can't sit here and wait for my 21st birthday or for Avery to cut my back so much that it puts me in the ground.
But here's the thing. I think that's a lot of the reason why he took kids. You think that's why? Because it's going to take them longer, I feel like, to try to do that, especially young girls, especially when you're like in an environment where everyone's getting raped, and then you've got let's keep in the mind when Avery was there, you have that man there lurking, as well as, oh man, I'm losing my train of thought as soon as I'm saying it.
Well, while you're getting it. As some of them, though, they were off the street.
Yeah.
I can't see girls, especially young girls who live on the street. There was no hint of fight.
And then the intake process.
Right.
I would at least have loved to hear about a line of butterflies who fought, and it became almost like a warning. Like, they didn't get any of that.
Well, I also think the intake process, as helpful as it was, also played a part in that submission.
Yeah.
Because
the welcoming committee.
Yeah, exactly. Because the first thing you hear is, "This is your life now."
Okay, this is my life now.
Just make
for you.
use out of it. But that's telling you
That's
that
what you think.
that's telling you that everyone there before you has essentially given up. So how do you rally that?
But there's also a comment.
You rally in that defeat, though. Like,
Yeah.
I was just surprised to hear, or surprised to see, that there was not one story, not one whispered story of someone fighting to get out of there, and that's what put them in the glass or in the
Like,
ground.
you would think that when Sophia escaped, that would have been the catalyst.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, she escaped.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it could have been like, oh, all the defenses are up, somebody escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
wonder
you
how
can't-
long he lived in that fear.
And you
of
can't
somebody
have
escaped.
a story of an escape and then no one tried to escape
But
again.
they said it was like a myth. No one even knew it was real.
Okay, but a myth which should be enough to spark over this decade after Sophia. I just feel like it's crazy that in this book about all this brutality done to these girls and women, that there's not one mention or one story of someone who fought or a group who tried to fight, and then that almost would have made it more powerful. Like, there's a cautionary tale. He didn't just kill you and put you in the glass. There is a real horrible consequence to fighting.
But I felt like that was shown a lot because in the sense that if there were little things that you did that he didn't like, he killed you, like with the twins. So I feel like it wasn't just killing you at your expiration date. There were girls going and not killing you when your tattoo didn't look right. There were girls that were going in and out over little things. So I feel like you're isolating the murders to those two big points. But if you're 14, if let's say you're 15, 16 getting there, everyone there is pretty much subdued. You're walking past 30 rows of dead bodies, and the twins just got killed because the other girl didn't eat her dinner. I'm just saying, you're not going to be like, y'all.
I get that.
And then until Maya asked for it, there were cameras and microphones everywhere. So where could they even have done anything?
I get that. I just feel like they made a point of showing the scale of how long he's been doing that. To have nothing, I felt is a disservice to all the type of girls you might capture.
But they said that there would be girls individually who would fight. I know they didn't get together, but there would be girls individually who would fight and they died. There would be girls who cried too much and they died.
I think it would have been more impactful instead of having like the whole story kind of the releasing or the the saving of the girls having been relied on Desmond.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more impactful if they did band together. Because I know the point during the book was like, okay, I don't want the cameras in the cave because of the mental health thing. But that would have also been a good plot twist for let's figure out how to escape.
To be honest,
I would have enjoyed that.
To be honest, when she asked for this stuff to go down in the cave, I thought that's where it was going to go, was that they were going to start huddling in the cave and start conversations, and that the twist was going to be he never took the mic down. That's what I thought was going to, that's what I thought was going to happen, because I'm like, you just can't take this man for his word, and that was going to be whatever. But even Maya herself wasn't a fighter.
Yeah, but I'm like, it wouldn't have to have been Maya. I would have loved to see that scenario.
Bliss
from another butterfly who was doing that because they learned that there was nothing there. That would have been, like you said, would have been interesting. And I also feel like the way they tried to hint with the girl right before the end who made the comment about formaldehyde and how she used to work with it. I knew it was going the explosive route as soon as she said that. Yeah. I almost, though, as soon as the police were there, I felt it was unnecessary.
But I think
she killed so many. I don't know if she fully knew, but she killed so many by doing
that. She didn't care, though, because she was talking about death since she had gotten through the doors, and people just kind of ignored her. I think the only reason why she never took herself out is because in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't have mattered if she did. It would have kept going. Exactly. So when she had the opportunity to go back there and just ruin the entire thing, well, why does it matter that we died? Because we were going to die in 4 years anyway.
I think Savrita was very much the firecracker that you were looking for to be the band, but I think she had an obsession with like more mortality and all that type of stuff. She was the only one who would go up to those glasses all the time and really look. So I think she just wanted to just burn things down. She did. She killed 10 of those girls essentially. I'm gonna say she killed 9 because Avery killed Pia on that last one. Sure. But that explosion was what really got people. I knew she was going to do that. I knew as soon as he was like, oh, Savrita, go get the stuff from the... I was like, see, he doesn't know any of these girls.
He just thinks that they're submissive, but like they're, you can't just give somebody a name and they're the person that you want them to be.
I mean, he doesn't even think he's raping them. He thinks this is love.
Exactly. And then I think I think Maya brought up a good point when she finally got to the top to look at the estate. So they band together, they get out. She's like, we don't know if we're in a greenhouse on an estate that's miles away from anything.
That's why the scope of the landscape was
crazy.
Me.
And she's like, we don't know what state we're in. Let's say we do get out, we're on the run, and then Desmond picks us up with whoever they've hired, or Avery picks you up, or whatever the case. I'm just saying, like, I get it because they're kids. I feel like you're mainly thinking of it because you're older and you're
I don't think that's it. I just feel like,
because a lot of them probably didn't even go up to his waist,
right? And it's really easy to be afraid. And
I get what you're saying. I really do. I just feel like when all the victims are women, I think it's easy to write that they get so scared, they get so defenseless.
But it's the same in cults. How
I
many
get
of
that
them
in cult,
could?
but cults are I'm just trying to articulate the wide range of women he picked outside of like with cults, that's your parents or someone bringing you to them. The wide range of girls he picked up, I'm just shocked or disappointed that there wasn't something more about a fight.
I just feel like he made sure there was an institution of fear.
I get that, but there's always someone who's going to. You can't have a 30-year long career
and not
be challenged. The only whisper we hear is of an escape, and he's fickle, and sometimes he'll kill you if you do this, that.
I'm just saying.
I got that. I'm just saying.
I'm getting with y'all. Okay, I'm gonna let this go. I'm getting with y'all. We're like, yo, we about to go. We about to jump this man. Come tomorrow, and then there's 10 of us, and then tomorrow there's 9 because old girl cried yesterday. Then that would make me just pause. I'd be like, okay, y'all,
but you're still gonna die.
Yeah, but like, what do we have? Like, we don't know what he has behind any of these doors. We try to overpower him in the garden. He breaks free. He runs. He opens up a door. There's guns in the back. What do you do?
But the point is, though,
there's too much uncertainty.
I get that, but the point is, you can't tell me in his 30-year career.
I get that
no one tried.
No one challenged him.
Because then that would be the point of the cameras and the microphone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He needs a backstory. He needs a backstory chapter too.
Maybe they're hinging it all on Sophia.
Because then when the girl killed herself in the lake, he put sensors. Clearly, all of the stuff he has is in response to something that happened.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason why now he has cameras and microphones
and
everywhere.
Yeah.
Because people have tried to. I just felt it was a disservice to not at least try to mention that.
I can agree with that.
It's another.
Not everybody was took it for what it was.
Yeah.
There was some
and just waited, until Avery or, God forbid, I cry too much and I break down. I don't even give a bitch a second to come back.
And then how do you?
It's just crazy. Oh man. Okay. I actually feel like we did a deep dive on a lot of different aspects in the book. Was there anyone that felt like
some closing statements?
I just wanted more from the senator. I actually wanted to hear the wife. Like,
I did.
Asked her something in passing. I wanted to hear her or see some type of reaction. And I was really let down by that ending. I was really let down by that ending. Yeah. Not you pulling me in with Desmond.
Do we want to come back? Do we want to talk about like the actual ending with the thing one more?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
because
that's the ending.
Because Desmond pulled me in. I was already struggling to get through the book, but when we got to part 2 and all the Desmond stuff was introduced, that's when it really turned for me. And then to up it with Avery escalating. And then for the phone call, the escape, so-and-so. We're going to the hospital. We meet this senator who's not really as big as a threat as we were led to believe in the beginning.
Right.
We're seeing the girls. We're seeing some of the family. We're kind of coming to an end. I'm still wondering what the secret is. Sophia comes in. And at first, I was happy to see her because I was like, see?
Someone cares.
People care.
Yes.
They were still looking for you.
I cried for Maya at that point.
And then
I did too.
I
I'm so
was
happy
like,
for her.
oh my God, this is such a good thing. And then for him to be like, see, the carousel stopped. You can get off the carousel. I used to be a butterfly. And that's what Maya was hiding. What?
Yeah. So just to be clear, did Maya actually get herself kidnapped?
No.
I mean, not get herself, but
No, she just put it as soon as she woke up.
She knew where she
knew
was.
where she was because Sophia told them. But I was just like, this is what were you acting shifty for? Again, going back, we needed to know what made them single her out. Was she looking through books or something?
Right.
Like what happened?
And how would this have incriminated her in any way?
Exactly.
Right. By just saying in the but bringing that up, it just jogged a thought for me. if Maya was gone for 2 years and Sophia's kids are in a safe place so she knows they're not just going to get snatched away and she's working on getting them back and she knows that Maya has been taken by the gardener, why didn't she say anything in those 2 years? You're no longer on drugs. You've got a steady job. You've got a place to live. You even house other people. You make regular visits with your kids. Your case manager's obviously saying you're a good person. Why were you so afraid still that he'd be able to get your kid?
Did she know that she was taken?
She said she did.
Because she probably, I got that. I'm right there with you. Because I got that sense because they brought back up the party and how it triggered her. And then the next few days she's gone. If I was Sophia, I thought it hinted that Sophia thought that this could have been the gardener.
I could have been wrong, but I got that from
because they were like, you left your clothes. They're like, we knew something, and you didn't just leave
and all that money.
Exactly.
I didn't get that because one, she didn't get kidnapped a few days. She got kidnapped a few weeks after. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
They went back to Maryland, and it was a couple weeks, and she didn't walk back with one of the friends. They snatched her off the street. I think when Sophia saw her, they said they thought something had caught up with her. They thought a past had caught up with her, and that the only reason why they were still skeptical, it wasn't the clothes, is because she had that huge amount of cash that was still there. So they saved it. She said she didn't realize it until she saw her on the news about the thing, and she came running over. So I don't think she knew she was kidnapped by the gardener. I think just like everyone there, because that's what Maya said. They're like, we were all running from something. Like, people disappear in there all the time. They're not going to be looking for me. But to me, it's like if you had an this was my issue. If you had an inkling that something was up, I mean, not like you could really put it missing posters. That's not her real name.
Right.
But I would have submitted a missing person because I would have been like, look, I don't know where she went. I don't know if her parents caught up with her. I don't know what happened, but she's gone. Like, she didn't leave this money here for nothing. I would have put in at least a missing persons report.
Knowing she's a child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
She got to New York when she was 14, right?
But she said she was 16.
Yeah.
Okay. So that man that she slept with, wait,
It was like
18.
2 years later. It's 2 years later.
okay.
Because
Never mind.
they didn't, I too was like, what is with all this casual statutory rape that I'm just reading all the time?
Yeah.
But
Dot.
right? But I think they were like, this was a little bit before she got taken. And
I assumed that too.
yeah, that's what I'm
still,
assuming.
He was 18 or 21 or something like that.
I don't. How old was Hope?
I have no idea.
Because he was one of Hope's boys, and I don't know how old Hope was. Hope was the roommate that was just
she was at least 18.
18. So I don't know.
And she was 15, 16?
Things gonna look things get a little tricky because in New York the age of consent is 15. So it is.
And do we need to verify that?
You Google it. It is. It's the age of consent in New York is 15.
Verify that?
So, and then I think you get a little dicey if someone's 18, 16. So it's only 2 years.
I thought it was crazy.
I mean, because that's a sophomore and a senior in high school.
Like, it's different if it's a senior freshman, but
because we do know a girl's not in trouble
exactly.
New York is 17.
Age of consent.
Age of consent is in the Romeo and Juliet laws. Oh, I thought Law and Order made that up.
No.
The age of consent is 17.
Law and Order is factual, actually.
My thing is,
it is. It is.
I didn't like how they tried to insinuate that the gardener. I can buy that he thought she was younger than what she was portraying at the party, but they made it seem like he knew exactly her age.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Well, he's been scouting for 16 for so long.
Yeah.
He
probably
right
knew
her.
exactly
Like, oh, girl.
what.
I already
age she
know you're
was.
not 21, please.
And again, just with that ending, I was just like, it sucked the air out of the story.
Yeah.
It sure
Because
did.
for it to be built around, like, she's clearly hiding something. Is she an accomplice? Is she like Lorraine? Why is she in here? And it's just because she didn't want to say Sophia used to be a butterfly.
You know what's so crazy is tying into that ending, like when she was telling her story and they would cut back to the detectives, I always forgot that was their issue with her, that they were trying to figure something out. So when we would go back there, I'm like, am I missing? Am I not reading this right?
Because she was definitely 16 and raped multiple times by this man who kidnapped
I'm
her.
like, what? You're mad that she stalled on a question about a trauma she experienced when she was kidnapped? I really wasn't connecting anything. And then they were like, oh, all the girls, they don't want to say anything until they talk to her. Then I thought, okay, maybe they think she was his little right-hand man. That says much. But I was like, as she's telling the story, how could you keep that up? So when Sophia came and they talk about the little faded wingtip on her shoulder, I rolled my eyes. I was like, it better not be anything to do with Sophia, that this is what she's hiding. I just didn't, it's not like, and then when they explained like the end and how she got out, all she remembered was them pulling her out the glass. It's not like they caught her looking at the book, ripping up pages.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
What was it?
Alerted them to her.
Exactly.
And that's why I made the point that maybe it was because everybody kept asking for her. And she was the one who was closest to the gardener. And then she had a relationship with Desmond. And so they think, oh, well, she'll know the most. She'll be able to give us answers.
But they didn't even know that about her and Desmond until she told them.
At least we didn't know that. They
that's
probably
true.
did.
But Desmond was out. Remember, they said all the Avery died and Desmond and the gardener were still passed out in the hospital.
True. But other girls were awake and they could have interrogated them or
Bliss
asked
could've
them
said
questions
something.
before.
True. Bliss wasn't saying anything, please. That was her ace boon coon. Bliss wasn't saying anything.
My thing is, how could they tell she was withholding anything?
That's what I'm saying.
Because she was acting shifty.
She was acting shifty when they brought her in there, but what made them bring her in there?
That's what I'm like, that's what we're all saying the same thing. We're confused on that part. And
Why was it even written, bruh?
Yeah, I really just thought Sophia was there to be the closure of people love you, you're cared about.
Which I like.
Yes.
And
you
then
have your own blinders on. It always felt like she never realized she was traumatized. And you could hear it throughout the story every time she spoke. And so I was like,
like that part.
That was I was like, yes. So she want to be like, oh my God, her daughters look hope. Everybody, they're on their way.
It was so sweet.
It was so sweet. And then I was just like, ugh. And then how did it end?
But you know what, though?
Edison with that stupid comment about did you get taken on purpose? Did you do this on
had
purpose?
no evolution, no
one
character
note,
development.
So did Victor.
Angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think what really angers me about Edison is not just that his sister is one of these girls, basically.
Yeah.
But would you want your sister to be interrogated like this if she were inside of that dome? Would you want somebody speaking to her like this when you know what she's went through?
Exactly.
No, but you would do this to somebody else's child.
That's what I'm saying. And then for them to put him up like he was some vigilante of justice before he became a detective.
And he was so hot-headed.
For him to not know how to talk to like a victim, like this is not Detective Stabler. That's all I could think of is Detective Stabler in his worst moments was Edison. No growth. Same with Victor and same with the lady who had just had kids that they wanted let in the interrogation room, which I was like, ugh.
At least with Victor, I feel like came with some perspective on how to talk to a young woman, like a young girl.
Yeah, because they made sure that we all knew he had two daughters.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to get too deep on that one because I feel like my issue with Victor and the two daughters, I'm not going to try to get too deep, is that it becomes like in the realm that men really only understand a lot of plight that women go through because they can relate it back to their own mothers, aunts, and daughters.
I can see that.
Versus Edison seems so hot and abrasive because he doesn't have that.
And she said that.
Yeah.
She said that. She was like, no way you're married.
Exactly. So it was like, oh my God, we're leading into the trope that he's so understanding because I have daughters myself. No, you should be understanding because you're a human being. True. And she was trapped and raped basically daily.
Yes. And this is your particular sector you've been working in for I assume decades or maybe.
Fire Edison.
Yeah. There was one part where Edison, for the 7th time, had said, and if we can even trust her if she's lying. And I verbally said something. I was like, good God, Edison.
And
Good God.
How many times are we going to reference Ramirez in the very first couple pages?
Exactly.
I'm like, Ramirez is not here. Let's get this interrogation started.
So then when we saw her, I was like, oh, shit.
Here's
Here's the senator. Here we go.
Didn't she just bring in some
they
clothes
walked
or
past
something?
her.
Yeah.
They
And
walked past her and said, "You need to see your daughter. You need to come to her as your daughter, as the mother, not as a senator." I was like, "That's it." She's been like the halfway boogeyman in the back of this, talking about she's going to bring charges or something against Maya.
She better not be like Lorraine.
Please, what do you know about Lorraine? You just got
don't even
her.
know the story.
And that was my one thing at the very end that annoyed me. Not about Maya as a character, but how they wrote it. It was like, okay, now she's a psychologist. It's not real for her yet. She's got to do the division of this. I'm like,
right.
I understand connecting with her as a mother in the garden, but then now to be this great psychological analysis on what's going on, the barrier, how I have to show up for my daughter, how my daughter needs to show up for me. I was just like, that was a little crazy. And she did that for every room she went into.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. They tried to make her. Sorry to interrupt. Like, she's so smart. She's so tricky. We ask her a question and she doesn't answer the question. And
Her
all
name
this.
is Cassidy. No, it's Bliss.
Like,
She's still in there.
It's like, Jesus.
it's like that trope character that are in certain books. I don't want to say like Maximum Ride, but those like scrappy, on the street, no nonsense.
Which is why we were so surprised when there was no fight in the dome thing.
But, well, no. This part was surprising. At the end, I think it was like right before. I think Maya was kind of settled into this idea that Desmond and her are just going to be whatever it is and he'll keep her safe, because I think, of course, she wanted him to like grow a backbone and actually do something. But I think she started coming to this idea after 6 months.
He's not going to
he ain't going to do shit.
Yeah.
So let me just stay next to him because it'll keep me safe. And I think there was some comment made, and Bliss explicitly basically said she wasn't going to fight back. You know, like she might always speak up for herself. She might always say what she's feeling, what she's thinking. She's not going to dilute it, but she's not going to fight back.
Yeah.
And she said it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, the ending.
Well, closing thoughts for me.
And ratings. Thoughts and ratings.
Oh, and ratings.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Simone, and then we'll go around the table.
Okay. I give this book a solid 3.
That's fair.
I would like a backstory on the gardener.
Yep.
You're not going to get it.
I want one. And I like the ending as far as her realizing that she's got a family, you know, people that care for her, and that whole moment of clarity for her. If we're going to write about trauma, can we not have angry men lashing out?
Yeah.
And then if we're going to have that, have him evolve into a softer person throughout the book.
Type of arc. Somebody
Yes.
needed an arc.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like I said earlier, a second dimension.
Yes.
This is very one-dimensional.
But other than that, yeah, I think I give it a solid 3.
Okay.
Yeah, solid 3. It wasn't too bad.
I give it a 3.7.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. I thought that the bones of the book were good. Like they had a good structure that could have been done better with it. But I think that the characters' personalities and who they are were written well. Again, I do wish that there was some type of arc, and I wish that the only sweet moment that came from Maya wasn't, or Nara, or whatever her real name was.
Yeah, what was her name? It was like
Samira.
Samira. That it didn't come at the very end when Sophia walked into the hospital.
Yeah.
Or the little tender moments only being during the trauma itself.
Yeah.
That part where
It's
he's
great.
sweet and soft with her because
Yeah.
he's getting something physically that he wants from what he's created.
That's a great point.
I will say that I did enjoy that the Stockholm Syndrome trope was not played on heavily, and that Lorraine was really the only one who was shown to have it so bad.
There
and
was
she was
one, but she was like the main one. There was one other lady that had the butterfly.
But she realized,
Danielle, because she had switched by that point after she got it.
right, because she thought, oh, he'll love me or he'll keep me safe.
Yeah, I can be like Lorraine, but different. I can
Right.
get
Yeah.
us out of here type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I like that there was that. There was no coddling the Stockholm syndrome. We're all in this. Some people are crying, but some people aren't. And that they kind of accepted where they were.
Yeah.
I do like that Maya never gave into this idea of I could love them, because I think that, again, Stockholm syndrome, a lot of people do. So I enjoyed that. But again, at the end, I just find Sophia's part irrelevant. I don't think that there was anything for her to be there for, except for being that person for Maya, not being the escaped butterfly, because it helped nothing.
Yeah, if they were going to put that in there, they should have definitely made that tie in
More.
earlier.
Yeah.
more like relevance. Like
we should have found
she's escaped.
We should have found something written from somebody, and
a code or something.
I gave it a very low 3, like a 2.999, but a very low 3. I thought the beginning didn't really hook me. Because, I'll DNF a book in 2 seconds. Taylor has gotten on me about that before, that I give it a paragraph.
You got to push through a little bit.
I know. The second part of this book elevated it to like a 4. Because I was really, when Desmond came in, it took off for me. And then we fell back to a 3 at the end. I don't know, that Sophia part was... outside of the loop closing for Maya was so unnecessary. It did nothing to the overall story.
Agreed.
It did nothing to the gardener and her plight.
It was like, here's a twist.
Bam. Yeah.
Last 2 pages.
A twist would have been Sophia left a code.
Yeah. Maya knew all along where she was.
Right.
Like, what?
Or at least that we could have sussed out that Sophia might have had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Just something for us that it didn't feel like a last minute throw in.
Maybe she was in Sophia's old room and Sophia had put like her initials or something.
Or something.
How are we
Yes.
rewriting this book?
That's
Yes.
it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
add-in.
Then we would have been like, oh shit, Sophia.
And like S so-and-so, that's her.
And then, quick interlude. Isn't it crazy that Sophia's still going by her butterfly name?
Was she?
No, she
Yeah,
wasn't.
that wasn't her real name. She goes Sophia, and then she goes Laura.
No, let me open this.
I never noticed that.
She didn't do that.
She did do that.
You do.
that
You
would
do
be
your-
crazy.
Maybe I'm reading it backwards, like Laura as the butterfly name, but
Oh,
she
yeah,
corrects
yeah.
the name.
Yeah.
Because they go like, who are you? And she says Sophia so-and-so. And then she goes Laura. So I don't know if Sophia,
maybe Laura
Laura's
was
the
her
butterfly
butterfly
name.
Yeah,
But I
I
took
think
it
it
as
was Laura was
Sophia
her
being the
butterfly
butterfly name.
I'm
Either
gonna,
way,
you
that's
give yours.
crazy.
I'm gonna look.
Okay.
I wonder how long she was in there. Did they say? I can't really remember.
I can't remember. She got there until she, I'm not sure. Maybe I would think a year-ish.
Enough to get pregnant.
Yeah.
I mean, but that could
Could
be.
be anything. You could be just really fertile.
Yeah.
So then I'll go while she's looking for that.
Okay.
I'm going to give mine a 3 as well. The beginning was really rough. If I didn't hear everyone's text messages saying, oh my gosh, it got really good. Part 2, I would have dropped this after the second or so chapter. But I feel like the middle was the best part. Even really before Desmond got in there.
Yeah. Before Desmond.
Yeah, just as we were exploring more about how the garden was like, how she was situating herself in that area. And then when Desmond came in, I felt the tension slowly ramp up. So the middle part was the best part. And then I
definitely.
agree with everybody. The end was the biggest letdown. So many unresolved things. I needed someone to go and smack this out of the gardener just one time. I needed to see one
In that
act of
bed.
violence.
Yeah, we needed one scene of that.
from one of the girls.
Yeah.
Not like in the way that you're like running the rebellion, but I felt like I needed one person to like spit on him. Like one of the victims just say something. Like when she went in there, they're like, yeah, his name's George. I think I'd
He's
like,
not the gardener
there
anymore.
I'd have been like, George. And I would have flung at the hospital bed.
Laura was her gardener name.
Okay.
Okay.
So I had it
Sophia.
backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I had it backwards.
But she still remembers.
Goodness for that.
But
Who would forget?
Yeah.
True.
But other than that, I'm just like, yeah, the ending, same thing with Sophia. I was just like, okay, I guess.
Again, if they had her in the same room to tie it together, something to make those two things
match. Because at the beginning they have the one line like, "Oh, there were stories about someone escaping," which Maya says herself in the interrogation rooms. I don't even know why she says that if she doesn't want Sophia to be linked to anything.
And then what's the big thing about that?
Again, because Sophia was good. She was clean. She had a job. She had her home. She was visiting her kids. Her case manager said she was good. She was working to get them back.
She did say, though, it's now coming back to me. She did say, though, she didn't want, if they did, I guess, find him, he has so much money to be like, I slept with her. I didn't kidnap her. Like, what is she talking about?
She was a hooker.
And then take the kid. Fear was that he would take the kid.
That's why I said an anonymous tip would have been enough to me.
Exactly.
But even though she didn't know who she was, even she didn't know. Yeah, she just would have been like.
Does she know the real names?
Well, some of them would tell before they died.
I don't know. But I don't know the way they said it in the book that started with Lionette. She did that with Bliss.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, and Maya. She said the real name,
she
can't
be the only one.
I was like crying. Well, no, they're saying that started that little moment with all the girls. They would say their name before they were taken to the room.
Don't forget.
Came like
I really like that.
I was crying, and she was like, "Don't forget me." And I was like,
that was really sad.
Cassidy.
Oh God! And when he would come into the doorway with the dress,
I know,
so calmly.
When I was reading it, I knew that it was like a very dark and like traumatic thing, but it's only until now that I'm getting the the eeriness of it, of the eeriness of like the actual events that went on, and like especially when it's during the nighttime, like that's crazy.
Well, here's my thing. I feel like I watched so many like crime shows and everything that I was going in basically being pretty numb to it. I knew you were going to be sensitive to it, but I was like, this isn't stuff.
I was like, let me skip through these.
I was like, I see this on Law and Order, Criminal Minds, and you have some of the darker ones. But then I was just so surprised at how angry I was at the gardener. Like just seeing it, because really in those, they don't really deep dive into the psyche of the criminals when they're doing it, especially from the victim's point. So just seeing it, I was so revved up by like the injustice of it all. That's all I could.
And how he warped it.
And how he warped it.
I couldn't get past that either.
There's so much brutality, but I just could not get over this cavalier attitude. This and I know they do that. There's so many times, like even when you look at real serial killers who are like that,
or just rich
people like, because they say billionaires have that same lack of affect. I was just enraged.
So, like weird. Like if I had that much money, I don't think.
Well, that's what they say. You get that. That's what they like. You get that much money because you have a lack of affect.
I would ever get bored.
I can agree. There's too much to see on
I'm living
the planet.
this life.
Squid Games though did show us.
But that's what I'm saying. Like they say, when you make that type of money, because at that point there's no one you're not exploiting to be a billionaire. Even with the billionaires that we like,
but there's sexually.
But I mean, but look what all they do behind the scenes. Though.
I mean, Jeffrey Epstein. They all use their money for whatever it is that
they really want to do. They get behind the law with that, and so they all like, especially when they say like businessmen who make that type of money, they're like, I can't remember like what stat it was, but they're like, oftentimes they do have that lack of emotional empathy. So they're apathetic because they don't care. They're like, it's it's
if I'm a billionaire, that's the last thing that I'm thinking about. Like, oh yeah, you know what? Let me kidnap some girls and hold them hostage.
Oh, that'll be fun. I can build it in the back.
I'm going to be up in the Alps in my mansion.
But look at what was his name? The guy who quote unquote killed himself, who was doing the list.
Epstein, like
no, that's not. Was that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of Harvey Weinstein. Okay,
like in jail and
he was already rich. His thing was just doing what's it called, sex trafficking.
That's what I'm saying. That's weird to be like, I have this money and I'm gonna do that particular thing.
But they all do that. Politicians do that. They all do that. Escort services. You know what they see? You hear about some of these like real Instagram quote unquote baddies and how they get flown out overseas and what they do
for the money
for $250,000 over 2 days.
Yes.
Crazy and gross.
some of these websites,
And the
I'm not
meaning.
even going to say it on this podcast. It's gross.
Gross.
But that's
And
all
then
I'm
come
saying
back and,
is you
and
have that
advertise some flat tummy tea.
and booty cream.
It's just like they don't.
That's
care.
how I got rich, guys. Get this
Exactly.
booty cream and flat tummy tea.
Please.
Kardashians have ruined. Okay.
Exactly. We are getting a little off track.
Okay, I'm
We're
just
getting on
saying.
track, but we all know why people are getting blown out, and we all know once you get offered a certain amount of money, that's what you're doing is going to be crazy. But they do it because they have money and it's fun and it's pathetic.
So doing that is fun. I guess I'm just trying to get behind this, or not behind, but understand. If you have that much money, why is that
What you're doing with it.
like? There's so many things that you could do.
Because you're so numb to it. Like Frank Ocean said with super rich kids.
understand how
They
you
just get,
numb to that.
they have so much money, so much access. At one point, you're just dull.
Right.
So
I
either
am
you
the
start
day
doing
up on the
drugs or,
roof.
yep,
I say I'll jump. I never
never do.
Yeah.
Million one, a million
Two.
Come on, Frank Ocean. Anyway,
We'll never get another album.
I know that's gone.
He said, listen to the old stuff.
He said, "I made my money. You guys can re-listen."
Any other last words before I spin for the next book?
No, but I
No,
think that's
I
good.
Good job, Dot. Make the Gardner book happen.
Thank you. Or something. Can we get
Yeah.
an excerpt?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I want to know how he was raised.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
need to know.
Well, apparently.
Jeez, something went wrong. Something went wrong.
And I would
somewhere.
love a backstory on Miss Lorraine too, because how in the world did she get to that place?
Yeah, they
Sent you
said
to
that
school.
No, but
No.
like how did she get so complicit
Yeah.
in
But
her?
Like,
that's
like
what
you
I'm
said, it was
saying.
Stockholm syndrome.
But like she ain't the only. Like she's the only one who's doing this though.
That's what I said
no,
earlier. I agree.
Danella also had her face.
But she didn't go that far. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
if she would have been there for a little bit longer.
but here's my thing. But that's everyone said. Even Sophia said when she got there, what was it? Because they were all like she was probably broken before she even got to the garden.
yeah, I remember
because they
that.
were like he would have never put her in glass before she became the
wonder
Lorraine
why.
we knew. That's what I'm saying. I said that earlier. I was like,
Pothole.
why did
A lot of missing
everyone
stuff.
say that?
And remember, she was one of the original butterflies because she was brought in as a friend for the girl that he
who was
got from the
kidnapped.
garden.
Yeah, she's been there for a
years.
long time.
From
From
the
the very
30
beginning.
years.
That's why I keep going back to he sent you to medical school.
That's why I think they said
left.
Oh my! I think you just gave me the light bulb. I think that's why they were saying she'll never be a butterfly because she was kidnapped to be a friend.
Yes.
I think she just
Whoa.
got wings as almost like a practice, but
Yeah.
he said that I took her as a friend for the first girl.
Ooh,
Danielle.
one.
Ooh, Elaine
Yeah,
has got me. I'm thinking that's what that was. Okay.
That's crazy.
All right. Okay, Brooke, go ahead and spin for us.
Okay, because
and-
I'll explain a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
So we spin for the genre in the book. We pre-spun for the genre so that everybody could drop. Well, not everybody, since Taylor's book was picked, she doesn't get to suggest a book for the next round. So the genre was literary fiction. I picked Long Island Compromise, which is in, I guess, want to say from 2024. Elaine picked 1984.
I've never read it, and I've heard good things.
When you put that in the group chat,
I was like, the book they make you read in school?
I didn't read it. I never did my summer reading.
I haven't read it
I'm
either.
the only one who didn't know. Everyone's like, oh, what? She picked 1984? I was like, what's 1984? Brooke was like, the book they make you read in school. I was like, I have no idea. But I
I've
think-
never read it either, though.
Yeah, I've never read it.
But
Mind you, my mother read it in 7th grade.
Ooh,
see,
that's what we're talking about. And Simone had the Candy House. So I'm going to spin.
I'm
this will
excited
be-
for that.
Or I'm actually really excited for my pick. Not this. I say this with love. No one's excited for 1984.
I say this louder
Okay, so I'm
we
gonna
will
spin.
push through it if it does land on it.
as we did the butterfly garden.
yes, very
or,
true.
Or veto.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm
We're
going
not going to use vetoes this early. We're just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
read.
I'm going to spin. So
okay,
this
go.
will be our book for April.
And then just to add to that, I am outside of the pick because my book I picked. Did you say that?
Yeah, I just said. So
Okay,
you
my
won't
bad.
go in this round. So
Okay.
then whoever's book is picked this time,
Will be out
they
for the
won't
next.
be in for the next round until we do it all again. Okay, here we go. Spin. Candy House.
Okay.
Simone's books been picked. It almost stuttered there.
I know. It was very close to 1984.
I mean, you can read it on your own time.
I'll get it next time.
If we get literary, what was the genre?
Literary fiction
If we get
again.
it again, you can just put it up.
Alrighty.
All right. Okay. Well, that was our first ever podcast episode today. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation.
I sure did.
Thank you. Give us a like, comment, subscribe on whatever platform you find this on. We'll be on TikTok, Instagram, and Spotify, and YouTube at one point in our life. So come check us out. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank
see ya.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.